as a sword in a fantasy world, where his abilities are listed. As he processes this, 4 goblins try to pull him from the ground. When one spits on him, he sees it as a declaration of war and uses his telekinesis to pull himself free, realizing he can move just by thinking. He attacks the goblins, feeling a sense of accomplishment with each kill, something he hasn't felt since reincarnating. The enraged goblins charge, forcing him to kill them all. Afterward, he notices his stats have increased. He then discovers the goblins had crystals, which he smashed during the fight, allowing him to absorb their abilities. Excited by his newfound abilities, he uses one of the goblin skills to dig graves for them, then returns to the spot where he had been fixed before the encounter. Feeling lonely without a wielder, he resolves to collect skills and grow stronger for his future master. Meanwhile, in a distant land, a slave girl named Fran dreams of becoming stronger, weary of her life as a trade. While lost in thought, a slaver throws a rock at Fran, forcing her back to work. With clenched teeth, she longs for the power to free herself from her miserable life of slavery. Meanwhile, the sword embarks on a quest to gain more skills, flying across the land. He encounters a tentacled monster, which proves to be a challenge as it drains his energy. However, he manages to cut off its tentacles and kill it, breaking its crystal and absorbing its power. Hungry for more strength, the sword sets its sights on attacking a goblin base. At the goblin base, the sword targets the goblin king and swiftly beheads him, causing chaos among the goblins. He then attacks the goblin mage, wiping out the rest and absorbing their abilities, which boosts his swordsmanship to level 3. He becomes excited, imagining how powerful his future wielder will be. Meanwhile, at the slave camp, a slaver is about to strike a woman when Fran steps in, ready to defend her. After Fran's defiance, the slaver commands her to bow, and she immediately obeys due to the control devices on the slave's necks and wrists, which force them to comply without resistance. The slavers mock her futile bravery, laughing at her weakness. Meanwhile, the sword continues its quest, slaying countless powerful monsters. Eventually, it reaches an open land devoid of monsters. Curious, the sword lands to scout the area. However, when it tries to fly away, it realizes it's stuck and unable to move. Realizing why monsters avoid the area, the sword discovers that the forest drains the energy of anything that lingers nearby. Despite feeling weakened, he remains hopeful that a beautiful elven warrior might pass by and wield him. However, days, months, and eventually years pass without anyone finding him, leaving him desperate for anyone to pull him free. Meanwhile, the slavers are attacked by a 2-headed bear during their travels. In fear, they command the slaves to stay still as bait to give themselves a chance to escape. However, the bear catches and kills one of the slavers, freeing the slaves from his command. The slaves seize the chance to flee, but Fran, determined to fight, attacks the 2-headed bear with a stick. The bear strikes her, sending her tumbling right in front of the sword. Desperate to be strong, Fran grabs the sword, and it begins communicating with her through telepathy. As she's about to pull it free, the bear charges, but just in time. She yanks the sword out and flies into the air. The sword instructs her to equip him and unlock his full potential. When she does, she gains extraordinary swordsmanship and skills, becoming strong enough to charge at the bear and slay it. With the beast defeated, another slaver steps forward, demanding that Fran hand over the sword. The partnership between Fran and the sword would be nothing short of extraordinary. Fran, a young girl from the Cat clan, and an S-level adventurer reincarnated as a sword, form an incredibly powerful bond. The sword, now called Teacher by Fran, not only gives her unmatched power but also serves as her mentor, teaching her everything she needs to know about combat and survival. Their ability to communicate through telepathy makes their teamwork seamless, allowing them to anticipate each other's moves and execute their strategies flawlessly. Teacher's determination to protect and support Fran, coupled with her unwavering respect and care for him, solidifies their relationship as more than just a wielder and weapon. They become an inseparable force. After each battle, Fran diligently cleans Teacher, symbolizing the mutual respect between them. Teacher, in turn, is motivated to help Fran grow stronger. When Fran mindlessly stumbles upon a group of goblins attacking an adventurer named Rendell, who is escorting someone to Alessa, she instinctively removes Teacher and, without hesitation, unleashes her power. With precision and ferocity, she kills all the goblins, showcasing the immense strength of their partnership. Together, Fran and Teacher have the potential to become a legendary duo in their world. After the fight, a surviving goblin runs off to warn the others about the danger. Teacher advises Fran to keep their ability to communicate telepathically a secret. Shortly after, Rendell approaches her to express his gratitude for saving him and reveals that he's heading to Alessa. He invites Fran to accompany them, and while she initially thinks he's offering her a ride, Teacher clarifies that Rendell wants her to protect them on the journey. Fran agrees to follow, and as they travel in Rendell's cart, he informs them about the conflict in the Moru Plains. Fran is confused, so Rendell explains that the Moru Plains is an Alist magic realm, where the weaker demons have fled to the forests, leaving the stronger ones inside. Teacher quickly realizes that the fight is his fault. Rendell continues, explaining that the conflict erupted after the death of an S-ranked adventurer named Fenrir, confirming Teacher's suspicion that he is responsible. Curious about Teacher's past, Fran asks Rendell if he knows anything about a magic sword, but Rendell admits he doesn't know much. As they journey, Rendell explains the life of adventurous warriors who take on missions to slay demons in exchange for money. This piques Fran's interest, as she learns that being an adventurer could help her earn the money she desperately needs. When they finally reach Alessa, Teacher notices other powerful weapons similar to himself and begins to question his own significance, wondering if he truly stands out among them. Fran reassures Teacher that he's important, calling him the awesome sword that saved her. They head to the Adventurer Guild, where they encounter Nell, a young receptionist with glasses. Despite her frustration with rude adventurers, Nell maintains her composure. When Fran expresses her desire to join the guild, Nell hesitantly explains that adventuring is dangerous and that Fran might be too young. However, Fran insists, so Nell informs her of the necessary test to qualify as an adventurer and takes her to meet Donadron, the examiner known for his immense magical strength and intimidating aura. Nell expects Fran to be nervous, but Fran stays calm. Teacher quickly assesses Donadron's strength, realizing he is far more powerful than anyone they've encountered. Nevertheless, Fran is determined to fight. In the duel, Donadron launches his first attack, but to everyone's surprise, Fran dodges it effortlessly. She skillfully avoids all his strikes, leaping onto a mountain to gain the upper hand. Using a combination of sword techniques and agility, Fran manages to defeat Donadron. Nell is astonished and asks Fran who she is. Fran is then taken to Klimt, the head of the guild, who inquires about the secret behind her skills. Fran refuses to reveal it, but Klimt is impressed enough to admit her into the guild. He takes her to the crystal, where she qualifies for multiple classes. Fran selects the Sword Mage class and receives her adventurer card. Afterward, she speaks with Nell and deliberately showcases all the demon possessions she has obtained, selling them for a staggering 195,000 gold. As Fran leaves to find a place to sleep, some envious adventurers attempt to confront her. Despite Teacher's advice to ignore them, they continue to harass her, accusing her of being a thief and mocking her for being from the Black Cat clan. They claim she conspired with Nell to sell her possessions at an inflated price. When Nell steps in to defend Fran and correct the adventurer's accusations, they attempt to attack her. However, Fran intervenes, protecting Nell without drawing her weapon, fighting with her bare hands before leaving the scene. In response, Nell orders the offending adventurers to pay 100,000 gold in damages, or they won't be allowed to leave. As Fran walks away, a dwarf adventurer with appraisal skills notices that her sword is a living, intelligent weapon. Fran and Teacher then head to the market to buy supplies for their upcoming journey, specifically looking for armor. While browsing, they are approached by Garrus, a blacksmith, who invites them to his shop. Teacher uses appraisal to assess Garrus, and after a brief telepathic discussion, they agree to follow him to check out his wares. At the store, Garrus praises Fran and offers her his best armor, seeing her as worthy. Fran and Teacher admire the variety of weapons and armor available, and Fran tries on new armor, which Teacher encourages her to purchase, making her happy. Garrus, using his God's Sight ability, becomes more intrigued by her sword, realizing it's no ordinary weapon. Teacher speaks up, confirming Garrus' suspicions, and asks about a sword displayed in the shop. To test its strength, Fran cuts the sword in half with ease, leaving Garrus amazed at the power of her weapon. Garrus analyzes Fran's attack and earns Teacher's respect as a skilled blacksmith. He goes on to tell them about a legendary sword made by a renowned blacksmith capable of creating blades that could tear the skies. This makes Teacher wonder if he was created by such a legendary craftsman, but Garrus assures him he is not a legendary sword. Teacher apologizes for assuming, and then asks Garrus if he can make a scabbard. Garrus promises to craft the finest scabbard and is surprised when Teacher offers a lot of high-quality materials from D and C rank monsters to use for the scabbard and armor. Garrus is impressed by the rare materials and promises to craft even stronger armor for Fran. When Teacher explains that they don't have much money, Garrus suggests they pay him with the monster materials instead, seeing an opportunity to create more equipment for other adventurers and make a profit while crafting the best gear for Fran. Garrus tells Fran and Teacher that the scabbard will be ready in a month. After thanking him, they leave the shop. Teacher suggests Fran buy some undergarments, and while she's considering it, a shop attendant calls her in. Fran tries on and buys some undergarments and outfits, then leaves. Next, they head to the saber-tooth shop to buy food and cooking equipment, where they meet Rufus, a retired adventurer. He encourages them to take whatever they need from the store. Fran and Teacher finish shopping and Teacher promises to cook a wonderful meal, asking her to find an inn. Fran uses her guild card to secure a room since inns typically don't accept children without an adult. Once they arrive, Fran is thrilled by the comfortable bed, something she has never experienced before. Teacher promises that she will continue to sleep in beds as good as this one from now on. Teacher then prepares a delicious fried meat dinner using the spices and ingredients they bought earlier. Fran enjoys the meal and thanks Teacher. After eating, Teacher discusses plans for their upcoming adventures and how they will use their Evo points in the future. However, he soon notices that Fran has fallen asleep and gently covers her with a blanket. The next day, Fran and Teacher head into the wild to gather herbs and fruits for her adventure, storing everything in their magical storage. Suddenly, they hear a battle nearby, and Fran rushes to investigate. She finds Lily, Errol, and Eustace struggling against a group of goblins. Seeing they're outnumbered, Fran steps in, using her magic to fire arrows at the goblins. Afterward, a section of the forest catches fire, but Teacher quickly extinguishes it with his magic. Fran continues fighting the goblins with her Teacher's magic, impressing Lily and her group, who are grateful for the help and healing. As Fran prepares to leave, they inform her of a goblin stampede and the goblins' plans to raise an army. Suddenly, a goblin uses a flute to signal for reinforcements. Fran then decides to go fight the remaining of the goblins on her own. The goblins begin to outnumber her, and her Teacher begins to suggest she retreats as she is getting tired. Fran ignores and continues to fight off the goblins and tells them to back down. While on the battlefield fighting and slaying the goblins, she feels cowardly and timid, but she encourages herself. She screams that she wants to become stronger to support Teacher. She is tired of being weak. She forges ahead to slay the goblins in front of her. At that point, Teacher says he just wishes he can protect Fran. He says he doesn't want her to get weak and tired, and he needs to protect her, but she isn't making it easy. He acknowledges that his Fran is no longer the weak Fran he knows. Fran is now much more confident. She runs towards the goblins, she slays them and talks to Teacher. She asks him to please support her as she goes to her new journey of becoming stronger. She's determined to do this, and he pledges to support her. He tells her forge ahead and keep killing. He insists that he will protect her from the attack. The confidence in Fran has skyrocketed. It is as though she now has a 100% increase in strength. As she continues her adventure, one of the goblins successfully throws an arrow at her. As she is about to fall, Teacher interferes. He calls the healing powers of his sword and he heals her. He tells her to forge ahead immediately and continue her fight. It is also worth noting that he is so proud of her and he wants her to get stronger. After killing over 100 goblins, she's covered in blood and she's shattered. She's weak and she stands around the sword. Teacher finds out she's now increased to level 12 and Fran has eventually leveled up. While drenched in blood and sweat, Fran returns to the city with her sword. She goes to Garrus, the weapon repairer. Garrus asks her who she had slayed and where she's coming from, which makes her that weak, and she tells him she's just coming from an adventure. Garrus asks her how many goblins she killed, but she lost count. She tells him she doesn't know, and Teacher replies that they have killed over 100. Teacher asks Garrus if he can help them repair their weapon despite the short notice. He tells Garrus that they have another adventure to break the home of goblins, and they need the sword. Garrus replies affirmatively. They narrate how their day went to Garrus, who listened with all sense of attentiveness, while also working on their weapon. It turns out that before they return home, someone takes them toward a hideout or home of goblins. As Fran is about to enter, having kept on her fight armor, she tells Teacher that she is going to go in. But Teacher stops her. He tells her it's late and they are tired. He tells her that she should gather the reward for the day's hunt and they should use it to renew their strength before returning home. As they're about to do that, a team of adventurers walks toward them. One of them asks Fran if she has single-handedly destroyed all the goblins. Then they say if she could kill those goblins, then she could rank in the same category as rank D adventurer. The question made it seem like she didn't want to answer it, so she changes the conversation and talks about the goblin nest. She tells them there's a goblin nest in that place, and she thinks there are several high-leveled goblins there. However, when one of the adventurers looks at the place, he says that there was nothing like a nest there about a month ago, and that can't be a nest, it's a dungeon. She attempts to their help to defeat the goblins, but they tell her that the guild leader is asking for her, so she should return to the city. She asks what they will do to make the nest, and they tell her they will guard it till she gets back, so she shouldn't worry herself. She goes to meet the guild leader and she explains her experience. She tells him of how she saw several goblins. Her explanation is sketchy, and it's getting Donadrin angry. Donadrin screams at her, asks her how many goblins and hobgoblins she saw, and tells her she should give them a specific number. The guild leader also interferes. He asks her to give a specific number, and she tells him she saw over 130 goblins and 30% hobgoblins. The guild leader asks her if the goblins ran while she fought them, but she tells him they didn't run. They stayed with her until she killed them all. The guild leader figures that for the goblins not to run, it's because there is nowhere for them to go, and that's because there is probably stronger goblins in the nest. She tells him the words of the adventurer dwarf and tells the guild leader that there is probably a dungeon in the forest. Donadrin takes it as a sign of an imminent fight. The guild leader shares the same fear. He tells Donadrin to immediately organize a group of adventurers from the rank F to the top, and these adventurers should take the responsibility of fighting the dungeon. The guild leader tells Fran that for her involvement in bringing such a thing to their notice, he will promote her to rank F so she can go with the team warriors. She protests that she hasn't completed her missions for rank G, but he tells her that for her to single-handedly defeat that many goblins, she deserves the promotion. And they are in the middle of a pandemic, so they do not need the usual rules. They narrate this to Garrus. He congratulates her on her promotion and tells her it's well deserved. He puts a crystal by the weapon they want to repair, and it immediately repairs itself. He gives the weapon back. Teacher is shocked as to how fast it was repaired. Garrus tells Teacher that the crystal works as a catalyst, and its mana works by instantly repairing any weapon. He says the crystal diminishes as it's used, and teacher asks for the price. Jairus tells him the crystal is an arcane blacksmith skill, and it's very potent. Fran isn't interested in that conversation. She asks Jairus what a dungeon means, and that's what her mind has been on ever since that conversation with the Jairus satisfies her quest for knowledge, and tells her a dungeon is a punishment from the god of chaos. It's just like the god of chaos is determined to test humanity. So the god of chaos sends a dungeon to Earth. The first step of the process is to first send a dungeon crystal. This crystal will draw all the strongest monsters in the forest to the place, and they will all become leaders. Not only are these monsters strong, but they are also given strength by God. Also, it is rumored that gold and diamond are in the dungeon. He tells them the gold and valuable things in the dungeon serve as the god of chaos's gift to any courageous person who gets to defeat the monsters in the dungeon. As Jairus finishes his story, naive Fran asks him if the god of chaos is good or evil. Jairus tells some people see the god of chaos as good. As she comes outside, Jairus cheers them up for the mission ahead of them. He tells teacher that he will make a scabbard for him ahead of the mission. As they leave, he tells them to make a landmark during their subjugation. As they go home, teacher takes his time to check out Fran's new achievement. She's now a level 12 skilled mage. She has the sword spirit, and she has also gotten a new title of goblin killer, a title which is usually given to any adventurer who kills 100 goblins. However, irrespective of her achievement, she's also tired. Teacher says that his healing magic can't heal mental and emotional exhaustion, and asks her to rest. But she tells him she needs to take her bath. He tells her to go, but she asks that he follow her. He refuses the offer and tells her he doesn't want to take his bath. But she insists. She says they had both gone through a stressful day, and they both deserve a bath. She drags him to the bathhouse. At the bathhouse, teacher wonders if Kat also likes to bathe. He asks her if she likes to take her baths, and she replies affirmatively. As she bathes him, Nell arrives. Nell tells her she has disobeyed the law by bringing her weapon to the bathhouse, and tells her her weapon isn't allowed. They apologize to her, and they go to eat. At the table, Fran tells Nell that she had a stressful day with her sword, which is why she decided to take a bath for her sword and apologized again. Nell tells her she heard Fran is also going for the goblin subjugation. She encourages Fran and tells her she will do well. However, she begs Fran not to overexhaust herself. She says if the stupid deputy captain had assigned knights for the guild leader, then the burden of killing goblins in the dungeon won't be on the adventurers. She explains that the deputy leader has the responsibility of picking a team for such a purpose. She also says if Amanda is around, then the mission will be a walk in the park. Trusts Fran to ask her who Amanda is. She explains that Amanda Haridi is a ranked adventurer, an ice among them all. But she has been given the mission of going to Maru Plains to investigate the calamity teacher had caused. Fran throws her question to Nell. She asks her if the god of chaos is good, so Nell tells her the creation story. According to Nell, 12 gods visit Earth to create the Earth. They all add their quota to it, and the god of chaos also does hers by creating several issues on Earth so humans can keep competing and revolving. Fran asks if there is a god of war, and Nell tells her there is a god of war. However, the god of war is greedy, and he has an obsession with power, so much that he becomes evil and fights his colleagues. They defeat him and scatter his remains all over the earth. However, the earth couldn't take it, so he remains turned to the monsters on Earth. Fran is already feeling sleepy, so she goes home to sleep. The next day, which is the battle day, Fran and teacher visit Garis. He shows them a very pretty scabbard which he made for teacher. Teacher is so excited that he jumps into it. Garis shows them there's a way teacher can come out of the scabbard without Fran's help. They join the other adventurers, and Donadren, the leader of the team, tells them they have to defeat the king and queen first, then the dungeon master. As they prepare for their attack, the goblins come to attack. Teacher tells Fran to join the warriors in fighting. As she gets to the lower goblins, they run away from her as they have seen she's a goblin slayer. She saves one of her colleagues from dying, but Teacher can't use the crystal from the killed goblin in public, so he tells her to go to the dungeon. The dungeon is filled with goblins, so she jumps using the mid-air jump, which they have obtained from one of their fights. She uses the tri-explosion to destroy some of the goblins before moving forward to use Fire Blast. She attempts to enter the dungeon and kill the king and queen. On the other hand, in the dungeon master celebrates that he has caught humans unaware, but he doesn't know what's in stock for him too. As the goblins run towards them, Fran goes against the adventure leader, Donadrin's instruction. She forges towards the dungeon under the teacher's command and by using one of the skills they have gained in battles. She jumps to the dungeon front, and several goblins forge ahead to defeat her. The other adventurers are scattered to fight the goblins, as it seems as if the goblins are also taking advantage of their attack to attack them in return. This gives Fran the opportunity to jump into the dungeon. Donadrin and another top adventurer enter the guild with her, and Donadrin is angry that she has disobeyed the instruction that no one should enter the dungeon without being commanded to. The top adventurer tells Donadrin that they should forge ahead with Fran, so Fran won't get to the goals first and take it all. It is obvious that Fran is excited about her new powers. He runs towards the dungeon with so much happiness that Teacher has to calm her down. He tells her she shouldn't overwork herself like she did the day before, and she should also understand that the dungeon is a very deadly place and she is at risk. She reassures him that she will be fine as she has the skills needed, and he tells her that if it happens that they are overwhelmed, they will use the teleportation feathers they brought with their gold to disappear from the teacher needs crystals to get more strength so they can defeat the goblins. So he tells her they will only fight the useful goblins with valuable crystals in them that they can use, and they will avoid the weak goblins with no crystals. This way the other troop coming behind them can also see goblins to kill. She accepts his decision, and as they approach the goblins he uses his parallel thoughts and they slay them. He takes the crystal and the goblins while he avoids the goblins without crystals. He tells Fran that if the other adventurers arrive and they see dead goblins without crystals they should suspect her. So he decides to use dimension storage to store the dead goblins in his realm before moving on. He notices Fran is getting stronger and more confident in her ability, and he comments on her excellent work. She's super excited to get a commendation from him, which pushes her to do more. As they continue avoiding the weak goblins, the weak ones come together in en masse and attempt to attack them. He tells her that they do not need these goblins, so he uses his double chant, which is the union between the parallel thought and Fire's javelin, and he uses it to destroy all the goblins. She tells him that his parallel thought skills are getting better, and he remembers the time he asked Fran to use parallel thought. Fran uses the skills and she gets them. But she complains to him. But she doesn't like the skills as it gets her weak. He figures that he could only use it because he isn't human. They continue in their adventure in the dungeon until they find another way inside the dungeon. They figure the dungeon is huge and wide, and they assume the master of the dungeon is probably hiding in the lower dungeon. As they approach the dungeon, they sight two hobgoblins. The hobgoblins run away immediately after they see her, and she rightly assumes that they are going to call their king and queens. "I will not kill those people who open the gate and reach inside." Then, there is a very dangerous mist rising in the air, and it welcomes the friend to the deepest part of the witch. In the next scene, Nelgan is seen talking to Master Clem and asks if the two are friends. Will they be able to clear Deng, and will they be safe? Master says that Dunjanjan has just been created, so he doesn't think there will be many powerful monsters in it that could be a threat to them. Until there are no unforeseen circumstances, the people will be fine, and both must reach the gate. But the gate is not opening, not from the outside, but from within. Inside, they know who is dangerous. Is it Dunjanjan, Master? Then Soda makes an assessment and is surprised to see the monster. The level and status of the monster are much more dangerous, and it has a unique skill that has not been seen before. They realize that it is a great one. According to the random game, Graded Daemon's thread is level B. The goblin commands the demon to kill Fran, but the demon refuses, warning that he'll kill the goblin if ordered again. Teacher tries to appraise the demon's skills, but discovers the demon has 6 secret abilities. As the battle begins, Fran holds her own with her sword skills, and Teacher boosts the sword's power. However, the demon, a level 30 greater demon, is formidable, and they know their chances are slim. The demon reveals that Fran can only attack him because she can see him, then starts disappearing and reappearing. In a sudden move, the demon cuts off Fran's hands. Teacher quickly uses Fire Guard to protect Fran and restores her hands. He realizes the demon isn't teleporting but using Fran's shadow to move. Fran figures it out and attacks, using her Vibration Fangs and Poisonous Fang, while the demon counters with Darkness Blaster. Both survive the attacks. Teacher, frustrated that none of their efforts are working, suggests they use their teleportation feathers to escape, but Fran refuses, determined to kill the demon and eat Teacher's favorite food. The demon acknowledges Fran's impressive sword skills and then reveals his secret ability: he can steal skills. He pulls out a hand from his body that penetrates Fran, stealing her sword skills, and declares she can no longer defeat him. Fran feels hopeless as the demon prepares to take her magical abilities as well, leaving Teacher gasping in fear. At this point, Teacher feels there's no hope for survival. The greater demon, ready to finish Fran, taunts her, saying he'll torture her for the trouble she's caused him. As he leaps to strike, Fran dodges and crawls behind him, stabbing his back. She continues her attack, repeatedly hitting the demon with her sword. Confused, the demon wonders why his skill theft didn't work, and Teacher realizes that Fran's sword skills are actually borrowed from him, not her own, making them immune to the demon's power. Energized by this discovery, Fran fights back with determination, overwhelming the demon. The dungeon master, noticing the struggle, summons 4 elite goblins to aid the demon and destroy Fran, intending to later attack Alessa. Hearing this, Fran tries to process the gravity of the situation, but is immediately assaulted by the goblins. However, the greater demon, embarrassed that the dungeon master doubts his strength, angrily uses his magic, Black Balm, to obliterate the goblins, scattering them in the air. He warns the dungeon master not to interfere again, or he will kill him. Turning back to Fran, the demon, fed up with the confrontation, declares she isn't worthy of his time. He decides to destroy the entire village and prepares to unleash his most powerful attack, Darkness Voltasar, a volcano-like explosion of magic. As he hurls it toward Fran, the ground trembles violently. Outside the chamber, Donadrin and the other adventurers feel the intense magic, worried for Fran's survival. They realize that if Fran is still alive after such an attack, it would be nothing short of a miracle. Donadrin attempts to cut through the door with his wild impulse magic, but it fails. The adventurers conclude that the door can only be opened from the inside, leaving Fran to face the danger alone. Inside the room, the greater demon taunts Fran, saying she won't dodge his next attack. Teacher, realizing the danger, tells Fran they can't defeat the demon and offers the teleportation feather to escape. Fran agrees it would be suicide to continue fighting, but she refuses to leave. She's heard the dungeon master's plan to destroy Alessa, and she won't let them harm her friends, especially Nell. She asks Teacher to lend her his power. Before she finishes, the greater demon casts Darkness Spear, launching spears at Fran, who dodges them. Teacher realizes that, despite Fran's desire to grow stronger, her true motivation is to protect others. He promises her they won't let anyone die and encourages her to keep fighting. The greater demon intensifies his assault with a Darkness Blaster, causing rocks to rain down, and Fran exhausts herself blocking them. Teacher checks the demon's stats again and realizes the demon has immense mana, allowing him to cast powerful spells without weakening. Knowing they can't win with brute force, Teacher begins to suspect the demon is avoiding the dungeon master, despite their apparent dislike for each other. This leads teacher to believe that the dungeon master holds the key to defeating the demon. He tells Fran to target the dungeon master. As Fran fires a flame arrow at the dungeon master, the greater demon rushes to protect him. They remember Donadrin's earlier words: if the dungeon master is killed, the dungeon will close and all inside, including the summoned greater demon, will die. Since the demon is bound to the dungeon master, killing the dungeon master will end the battle. Fran and teacher decide to focus their attacks on the dungeon master. They fire arrows and javelins, forcing the greater demon to use all his powers to protect the dungeon master. Teacher notices that while the greater demon is defending, he can't attack. Realizing the demon is tiring, teacher forms a strategy. They need to shift their focus to the greater demon instead. Teacher instructs Fran to throw the sword at the demon to create a distraction while she attacks. As teacher flies toward the greater demon, the demon is confused, wondering why Fran would throw her weapon away. He prepares a defense, thinking Fran won't be able to get through. But teacher manages to slip past the defense, aiming for the crystal in the demon's heart. Just as teacher is about to strike, the greater demon grabs the sword. Teacher, aware of the demon's great mana, uses his own mana to break through the demon's grip, shocking the demon. In disbelief, the greater demon hears teacher speak, calling him foolish and vowing revenge for the pain Fran has endured. Teacher then activates his ultimate skill, ***telepult****, using it to slice through the crystal in the greater demon's heart. The demon dies, but in the process, teacher exhausts his own mana and begins to break apart. As teacher crumbles, Fran runs to him, crying, and gathers the broken pieces of his body, devastated by the loss of her beloved companion. As Fran weeps, wondering if her relationship with teacher has ended, teacher suddenly reactivates, joking that the greater demon's crystal is sweet. He reassures Fran that he can renew his strength using crystals, and she scolds him for scaring her, calling him a dummy. They share a happy moment before the dungeon master, still defiant, attempts to summon another demon using the goddess power. Before he succeeds, Fran uses the greater demon's sword to break his staff. The dungeon master pleads for his life, claiming he will keep resurrecting as long as he wears his scapegoat wristband. Fran cuts off his hands, handing one to teacher, and stops the dungeon master's powers. The dungeon core changes color, signaling the master's death, and the dungeon crumbles, returning everything to normal. As they exit, Fran and teacher hide the greater demon's sword. Donadrin pats Fran's head, acknowledging her bravery, but warns her with his intimidation skills not to take such risks alone again. He reminds her of the rules for adventurers, while teacher notes that Fran has leveled up to 25, and he has reached level 8. Fran, distracted by her punishment, teases teacher for focusing on levels, and he quickly shifts the conversation to the curry he promised her. They purchase new skills, including the skill taker ability used by the greater demon, before returning to the guild. There, Klimt scolds Fran for entering such a dangerous dungeon alone, saying she could have endangered the entire city. However, since she succeeded, he lets her off with a warning. Klimt then asks about the greater demon's crystal, known for its immense power capable of inciting wars. Fran explains that the crystal was destroyed during the fight, and Klimt, trusting her, believes her story. Suddenly, a mysterious man bursts into the office, accusing Fran of lying. Both Fran and teacher are shocked, especially since teacher hadn't sensed the man's presence. The man claims he has a unique ability to detect lies, insisting that Fran is hiding the truth. As Fran questions who he is, she remains unsure of his identity, while teacher wonders why he couldn't feel the man's presence. August Alsand, the vice captain of the Alessa Knights, angrily introduces himself after Fran claims not to know him. The word knight rings a bell for Fran and teacher, reminding them of what Miss Nell had said earlier, that the knights were supposed to provide warriors to assist in battles, but the vice captain had refused. Fran now realizes that August is the knight who despises adventurers. August boasts about his essence of falsehood skill, which lets him detect lies, and accuses Fran of deceit, claiming she lied about the crystal. He insists that she should be punished for lying in the presence of a noble. Teacher grows suspicious and uses his appraisal skill to investigate August. Though August is a level 30 knight, his skills are weak level 1 swordsmanship, and he wears a presence concealing ring explaining why Teacher hadn't sensed him earlier. Teacher also learns that August has been misusing his essence of falsehood skill to falsely accuse others in the past, manipulating situations for his own benefit. August turns to Klimt, demanding the authority to punish Fran, but Klimt refuses. August, enraged, argues that Fran cannot be allowed to lie to a noble without consequences. Klimt defends Fran, stating that she is a strong adventurer who single-handedly defeated a level B greater demon. He warns August that he wouldn't stand a chance against her. August, realizing he's outmatched, tries to negotiate, demanding the demon's body and loot from the dungeon in exchange for forgiving Fran. Klimt firmly refuses and reminds August that when the guild requested the knights' help for the dungeon quest, they refused to assist. August justifies the decision, claiming they had to be sure the dungeon was truly dangerous before risking their noble knights. Now, seeing that a little girl like Fran could defeat the dungeon, he insists the dungeon wasn't as perilous as they thought, and therefore doesn't regret withholding help. Klimt dismisses August's demand for the dungeon loot, reminding him that since the knights didn't join the fight, they have no right to it. August, furious, threatens to report Fran for lying and disrespecting a noble. Klimt accuses August of withholding the guild's request for knights from Captain Eurus, knowing Eurus wouldn't have refused their plea for help. Klimt also makes it clear that all the loot from the dungeon belongs to Fran, and August can't demand it. Frustrated, August threatens to start a conflict with Sir Holmes, his father, if Klimt reports him. To defuse the tension, Fran offers something from the dungeon, but it's just goblin horns, which infuriates August. He pushes her, causing her to fall. Angry, Fran contemplates killing August, but Teacher calms her down, suggesting they use the skill taker ability instead. Fran steals August's essence of falsehood and court etiquette skills, rendering him powerless. August, humiliated, stumbles away, losing his dignity as he leaves the room. After August's departure, Klimt apologizes, explaining that August is a weak noble who buys his way to power and levels up by hiring others to adventure for him. Nell arrives, excited to see Fran, and Klimt announces that Fran is being promoted, not to level E as she expected, but directly to level D for saving the city from destruction. Klimt admits he tried to push for level C, but the guild elders refuse due to Fran's inexperience. Fran, overjoyed by her promotion, joins the adventurers in a celebration. On Teacher's suggestion, she offers to buy drinks for everyone, enjoying her newfound status. Later, back at the inn, Teacher reflects on Fran's growth and recalls his promise to make her curry. The next day, Teacher takes Fran to the woods, preparing several versions of curry, which Fran enjoys thoroughly. As they leave the woods, a man approaches, warning Fran that August has been behaving erratically and searching for her. He mentions that August was sent away by his father, Count Holmes, after disgracing himself, but continues to obsess over Fran. Though Fran feels guilty, Teacher reminds her that August brought trouble upon himself. They notice someone tailing them, and Teacher advises Fran to confront the pursuer. Fran lures the stalker to a rooftop, only to discover that it's a disheveled, almost undead-looking August. Teacher barely recognizes him with his appraisal skills. August calls on an assassin, a blue cat which terrifies Fran, as blue cats are mortal enemies of the black cats. Meanwhile, the episode ends with a lone woman walking through the forest, effortlessly defeating some attacking monsters. Fran trembles in fear as Jyrn, the blue cat warrior, approaches, reassuring August that he will defeat her. Teacher notices her unusual fear, far worse than during their toughest battles, and asks why she's so scared. August, feeling confident, brags that Jyrn, a hero of the Battle of Lutz, will easily win. Fran explains that 100 years ago, blue cats betrayed the black cats, leading to a massacre and making the black cats a lesser species. Even now, blue cats enslave black cats whenever possible, fueling her deep fear and hatred for them. On the other hand, Jyrn sounds sure of his victory as August commands him to cut Fran into two so he can get his perfect revenge for what Fran and Teacher did to him. Jyrn looks at Fran. He sees her hands shaking and asks her if she is scared of him. The scene Fran sees in front of her reminds her of when she was traveling down to that city with her parents. She says that she encountered a lot of blue cats with her parents and they got into fights at every opportunity. She thought they would die. Teacher realizes Fran's fear of the blue cats is deep and it's not something she can shake away. Jyrn goes nearer to her again and whispers into her ears, asking her if she's afraid. She refuses to reply and he answers herself. He says she's afraid and he isn't shocked as she has every reason to be afraid. He goes behind her and he attempts to attack her from behind. Fran is distracted and lost in her thoughts and Teacher calls her attention to the attack. She uses her sword to block Jyrn's sword. Teacher uses his appraisal skills to check Jyrn's sword and he finds out a shocking thing. He realized Jyrn's sword is an elusive pyrazine magic sword, a sword greater and stronger than the lesser demon's own. Fran holds onto the sword, using all her strength to stop the attack, but she's weak. Not only is she weak physically, but she's also mentally weak and not ready for that scene. Jyrn pushes her away and she falls onto the floor. While on the floor, he warns her against holding his swords again. He tells her the last person that held his sword like that was a woman, and he intentionally cut off her daughter's lip, limb, arms, and legs. He raises Fran and he steps on her head with his shoes. He tells her he can't wait to tear her off and asks if she will also make painful sounds that will make him feel happy. Fran is dejected and scared. Teacher speaks to her and encourages her. He tells her Jyrn is an evil person, while she is a person growing to be more courageous. And they must defeat Jyrn. Teacher tells her he can't allow a person like her to lose to a demon like Jyrn. Upon hearing Teacher's words, she feels more encouraged. She appreciates Teacher for his words and her countenance changes. Her mood lifts, her eyes get brighter, and her strength shines so much that Jyrn notices something has changed. He's no longer seeing the timid black cat, which he has intimidated, and he sees a black cat that is booming with confidence. She stands on the floor and removes his legs from her head. He angrily asks her what right she has to look at his face and says he will kill her and get done with it. He raises his sword against her, which is a shock to him when Fran defends against his sword. He's shocked, but he tries to cover it up, and she asks how many black cats he has killed. He first tells her 5, but says he has killed so much that he actually stopped counting after killing the 10th. She tells him it's time for his judgment and she will get revenge for every black cat he has killed. He looks at her wondering what she will do. Within a split second, Fran cuts off his hands and takes his sword. He doesn't know what has happened. It happens so fast that it takes him minutes to recover. By the time he recovers to what's happening around him, he sees Fran putting his hands into the dimensional storage. He screams, "My sword," before remembering my hand. She tells him that a living person can't enter into the dimensional storage, but she can store his thumb there. When he gets to his reality, she tells him she will avenge everyone he has killed. She bends and cuts off his legs. As he is on the ground, she cuts off his arm. He is so shocked and asks how come Fran is stronger than him and how it is possible that a black cat will defeat him. Little does he know that he's almost dead. Fran attempts to kill him, but Teacher stops her. He tells her that if she must kill him, then she should allow him to take the burden. However, she refuses his offer. She tells him that she wants to be a source of inspiration to every surviving black cat around. She wants them to see her and wish to survive, so she wants to evolve. And if she leaves a man like Gyron alive, then it will mean that more black cats will die. He realizes that the pain she's feeling at that moment isn't something he can carry for her. He requests that she uses him when killing Gyron. She removes Gyron's skull and she puts his remains into dimensional storage. August is shocked. He explains that Fran killed and hid the body. Fran asks Teacher if she should kill August too. But a water spirit comes beside her. Klimt, the guild leader, has sent the water spirit. The spirit tells her not to kill August. She goes to the guild leader's office with Teacher and the water spirit. And while at the office, they find out Klimt is a spirit maniac, as he has several spirits under his control, including the water spirit he sent to them. He tells them that members from the guild would have taken August to his father, Lord Holmes. He reports that Holmes has brought the request that his son should be found and brought back. He says August was placed under house arrest for disrespecting royalty, but he stole money and ran away. Teacher found that August's intention when he came to attack Fran was to kill Fran and get his revenge. Then he would run away. Klimt says that now that August has been found, he will either be kept away forever or banished. But anything that happens to him is none of their concern. Fran asks Klimt if the search for August was an official mission. He replies affirmatively and tells her she has fulfilled the mission and she will be given the price for it, as well as a bonus. However, the mission is a secret and he wants them to keep the matter secret. Both Fran and Teacher are happy about this. Klimt tells them to meet Nell for their pay. On their way out, Fran meets a lady who calls her child. And Teacher wonders if the lady is Fran's mother, as Fran already said her mother is dead. Fran looks at her for a while and tells her she isn't her child. The lady insists that she is Fran's mother and asks Fran to call her mother until Klimt interferes. Klimt calls the lady and introduces her as Amanda. He tells them she is an ranked adventurer. And when Teacher checks her skills, he sees that she is 58 years old and is given the name Custodian of Young Kids. She has been sent to investigate the Maru Plains, which explains why she hasn't been around. She calls Fran's name and Fran is shocked that he knows her. She tells Fran that everyone in the guild is talking about her. Fran leaves Klimt with Amanda and returns to the city. She goes to buy something but sees Amanda. She goes for sweets and sees Amanda. She walks by the way and sees Amanda. She concludes that Amanda is stalking her. She goes to ask a man at the guild if there is another dungeon, and the man tells her the only dungeon near to them is at Ulmut. She concludes that she doesn't know Amanda's, so she asks Nell about Amanda. Nell tells her that although Amanda is weird, she has excellent intentions, which is why she is given the title of Mother of Children by the gods, so she can be comfortable with Amanda as Amanda doesn't mean any harm. Amanda comes at about the same time. She tells Fran that Fran can call her mom, but Fran refuses to call her mom. As they have their argument, Klimt calls for Fran. When Fran gets to his office, he shows her several crystals. He tells her he got them during his time as an adventurer, and he will give her 3 of them in place of a favor. He asks that she takes a mission to go to a spider nest by a dungeon and investigate it. Fran negotiates with 5 crystals, but asks Klimt why he wants her to take the mission. He tells her that some people have been against her recent promotion and they've spread rumors that he's taken a liking to her and doesn't want to be associated with liking a young girl. So she should take the mission to prove her talent. He also offers to give her a pass to the Ulmut dungeon if she succeeds in this mission. Amanda breaks into the office. She insists that she will go for the mission too, and Klimt allows her. At home, Fran asks if the dungeon will be difficult, but he tells her that since the dungeon has been cleared, they can't meet a demon like the Greater Demon. He brings out the crystals they have and uses them. He levels up again and gains several skills. One of them catches his fancy. The Ken summons skill, and he anticipates using it. They depart on their mission, which becomes more difficult than expected as Amanda is seen attacking them. Upon arriving for the mission to clear this spider dungeon, Fran tells teacher that they have arrived, and Amanda sees her immediately and jumps at her. Amanda asks her how her night went and tells her she misses her. And Fran replies that even if she dreamt about her, she's sure the dream was a nightmare. Amanda feels bad for Fran's words and asks Fran to warm up to her. The other members of the mission, which is headed by Cruz Riozal, is there for his examination along with his colleagues, and he's very sure he will blow their minds with his skills. In like manner, Furion, a wood elf elementalist, and the leader of the forest evil party, introduces himself. Teacher looks at Furion and says that Furion is from the same class as the guild leader. But compared to the guild leader, Furion is bland and the party is also bland. After the others introduce themselves, Amanda introduces herself as a member of the class at Adventurer Group. It is obvious that the task is a minor one, and it doesn't call for the presence of an adventurer like Amanda. It comes more as a shock to the others because they never expected to see Amanda in their group. They whisper within each other as regards to her presence, and the last person in the group to introduce herself is Fran. She tells them she's a member of the Class D Adventurer Group and her best food is curry. Teacher corrects her by saying that the adventurers do not know what she means by curry, but she says her thing regardless. As Fran finishes her introduction, Crad jumps down from the tree. He asks if Fran is the unqualified adventurer who has been promised without the due law. In defense, Fran tells him she's qualified, but he repeats that their mission is filled with an A-class adventurer who only joined the mission to brag about her strength, and a D-class adventurer who became an adventurer due to the favor of the guild leader, Fran, for his ulterior motive. Before Fran could even react, Amanda walks towards Crad from behind, holding his face and lifting his head high. Crad immediately figures Amanda isn't one for him to talk to anyhow, and he immediately apologizes to Amanda. Teacher comments that Amanda is so fast, and he didn't expect her to attack Crad in that manner. After twisting Crad's head on his neck for a while, Amanda releases him, and his party members try to pacify him. Instead of eating up his words about Fran, he insists that he can go on a mission with Amanda, but he can't go on a mission with Fran because he's sure Fran isn't qualified. He says Fran is a baby who should be with his mother at home, and she doesn't have the right to call herself his superior. For the first time, Fran responds to him. She tells him she is qualified, and he has no right to call her unqualified. He repeats that Fran is just a kid, and she should return to her mother at home. Angrily, she tells him she doesn't have a mother, and that her mother is dead. Cruz interferes, trying to make the atmosphere better. They are to investigate the dungeon and take its resource on the dungeon core while killing any of the monsters that cross their way. Crad replies that he is sure the monsters in that dungeon are rank F monsters, and he can clear them all without any stress. Cruz tells them that they aren't authorized to clear all the monsters as the dungeon survives by sucking the powers of the monsters inside. So if they kill all the monsters, the dungeon won't be able to regenerate itself. Cruz informs them that Amanda is only there as an observer, and she doesn't have the responsibility to interfere in the battle, because if she does, it is herself without any stress. He tells them that they will proceed to the dungeon immediately. They all walk in a line, and they cross the water. As they walk, Teacher tells Fran that he is one of the only dungeons without a dungeon master. The dungeon recreates itself with the powers of its monster, so the dungeon favors the city because of the valuable crystals they get every year. He tries to hit the stone and falls into the water. Fran asks, "What is he doing?" Amanda. They all reach the dungeons late, and the examiner blames their nonsense. Fran says she didn't do anything. The examiner says they will explore the dungeon tomorrow and hopes they brought sleeping gear. They make a campfire, and the examiner assigns guarding duties. Fran is first. Brad insists Amanda won't do it, but the examiner says it's part of the test. Crad is told by others to teach a girl a lesson, but he doubts her abilities. He believes those promoted through connections are weak. Crad powers up, saying facing such people awakens his inner dragon, which she does. A man is surprised at Fran's ability to use two elements. He claims his spear is superior to her sword and attacks, but Fran easily deflects. He uses his ultimate move, double spear, but Fran dodges and knocks him out with a single kick. Fran boasts about her sword's power. Fran humorously hits the sword's handle, and her friends pull her away. Sword comments the man will think twice before crossing her again. Amanda praises Fran's battle. Amanda challenges Fran to a duel, saying, "Want to fight?" Fran agrees but sets a condition. If she wins, Amanda must stop bothering her. Amanda agrees, adding that if she wins, Fran must call her Mom. Fran, knowing Amanda is a Ranka adventurer, still decides to fight on her own without the sword's guidance to measure her own strength. Amanda draws her sword, saying it's an old friend, and then attacks Fran. Fran gets hurt by it too. With her sword, Fran can't attack directly. If she does, the sword will turn against her. If she's not careful, Amanda can easily take the sword from Fran. The sword tells Fran that not attacking it directly is a good choice. Amanda keeps attacking Fran, but she dodges. When Fran tries to get closer, Amanda stops her with the sword. Amanda says Fran isn't fighting badly, but she wonders how Fran can hurt her. Fran realizes she hasn't attacked Amanda at all. Amanda decides to get serious and adds magic to her sword. This sword is very fast, and Fran can't dodge it. Amanda says she knocks people out with this move, and it's been a while since anyone dodged it. Amanda feels scared. Meanwhile, Fran uses wind magic to move quickly toward Amanda. She uses parallel thought, and the sword thinks she's doing the same. Amanda attacks Fran with her sword and cuts her stomach. Fran uses an air burst to speed up, but Amanda realizes she can't counter in time. Amanda is now defenseless. Fran gets close and tries to hit her, but Amanda uses a wind shield. Fran jumps and attacks with fire blasts, shocking everyone who thinks Amanda will lose. But Amanda emerges unhurt from the flames. She tells Fran she didn't expect that attack. Fran is surprised Amanda isn't damaged. Amanda explains it's due to her skill, spirit affection. Fran insists she hasn't lost yet, but then she falls too far. Last attack hit her. At the same time, Fran's unique skill, Brad calls them monsters. The examiner tells them to put out the fire. Sword warns against using fire skills in the forest and plans to ask Fran to apologize tomorrow. God realizes Fran used parallel thought. Did Amanda stop playing to fight seriously? Her special skill too. Good job, Fran. When Fran wakes up, Sword tells her she was out for 2 hours. Amanda praises her and suggests she rest longer. She assures Fran that others are guarding in her place. Amanda notes that Fran is physically fine but mentally tired and reminds her that she's still a child. Fran compliments Amanda's strength, but Amanda insists Fran is just as strong. Fran is unconscious, so she feels undefeated. Amanda reminds Fran of their promise, asking her to call her Mom. Fran replies that Mom can't speak, and Amanda hugs her, acknowledging she might have teased her too much. Amanda knows Fran's mom lives in her heart and assures her she will always be there for her. Sword notes that he has tested Amanda, but believes her feelings for Fran are genuine. He feels a bit jealous of her role as a guardian. The next day, Fran apologizes for using fire magic, but her skills are praised and others want to work with her. After their fight, everyone is energized and decides to take on Amanda, but she defeats them all. They prepare to enter the dungeon using a card. Then, all the adventures that happen, you have reached the spider dungeon, and now its investigation is about to start. When all of them enter this dungeon, you have to look at the shot and say that it is really tangent. As it is going, the instructor of all these has to say here that this is the first floor of Dunya, and here we will have to face stone pillars and obstacles. This is a perfect habitat for spider monsters. He tells the advance party that your role is to scout the area and clear the way. The party is low on energy, and all the other adventurers are also exhausted. Amanda says, "This is Spider-Man." The people who had cleared this dungeon and paid on time, there were many adventurers here, were all saying, "I am the only one who will clear this dungeon." But many had sacrificed their lives, and many of them were also parents. This was the reason I opened the corporation. I was not very strong, but I had a lot of help from people. You must plan your conversations carefully. Many monsters attack here. They are all level 6 trap spiders. Everyone starts to attack these monsters together, and Creed fights them very well. Manda says, "We will definitely not need your help," and then adds, "No, you can do it yourself." They attack the party. One of Azure's servants says, "The spider is not very strong, but the web it throws is a bit difficult to avoid. You won't be able to move it easily, but it's not very strong compared to pollen. So you just have to trap them, and then tell a teammate that their web is a precious material. Burning it is not a good idea.